This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
You've been a banker for how many years?
Just over 10 years now.
Just over 10 years. Tell me, good career, bad career, somebody watching this, easy career, very difficult, what would you
I'd say it's been a good career. The banking community is very multicultural. It's very accepting of people from different backgrounds. I think young people have great opportunity in banking to excel quite quickly. What I will say is it's quite a bit of hard work. So when you have to get in around 6 o'clock in the morning sometimes.
A lot of early mornings, late nights.
A lot of early mornings and late nights, but in the end the reward is quite good.
Okay.
I would definitely encourage people to get into banking. Work hard, get good grades, and then follow your career there.
Okay.
And it's a very rewarding.
Do you need very high grades? Should you have very high GCSEs? And
I would say you need good common sense, business, entrepreneurship skills, and a desire to succeed.
Tell me, sir, why did you get into banking?
I didn't have a different choice because that was the only education I got up when I did my apprenticeship. That was actually where I got into. I always want to be an architect, but it ended to be the same in the end. So just in a different world, but you architect something in banking as well. Until the financial crisis, it was really a very interesting job.
Very, very good career, right?
Absolutely. Banking is definitely much different than what it was 20 years ago. Recommend, definitely yes, but not in the same way as before. I would definitely recommend it as a foundation of your future career. But later on, I would definitely open the eyes because banking is definitely go back to some years what we had 10 years ago.
What drew you to this profession?
Well, there's no secret. The bank is one of the most lucrative careers that you can have in the industry. So,
if you want to make money, you should become a banker.
Well, that was the saying, right? So, but if you look at what's happened in the last 33 years, bankers have had quite a hard time, and there's been a lot of bad press in the media about how bankers are earning silly amounts of money.
Yeah.
That's not entirely true. The bank has gone quite a rough time. We had the financial crisis in 2008. And the banks have found it really hard. A lot of people...
Tell me a bit about this, because whenever you talk to a banker, you can almost not talk to a banker for more than a few sentences without the word financial crisis coming up. Tell me, how dramatically has this changed as a field after the banking crisis?
Oh, it completely changed the market. A lot of people were made redundant over the period of time. Banks are really struggling to make revenues. Budgets change, compliance change. So actually the banking sector, to actually join the banking sector, become a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
If you look at the graduates which are coming through to the banks right now, it's really the Ivy League type schools which are graduates coming in, because the demand for the roles in banking is quite high.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people trying to get into the industry. So it's made it even more harder to get into. So, the advice I can give is, if you're determined, work hard, study hard.
Yeah.
The new trend in the marketplace is clearly technology. Banking is now moving into more of a technology environment.
Okay.
And if you have the skill sets and basically bridging the gap between banking and technology, you will have a very successful career.
Okay, so technology and you should, what about the Ivy League experience? Should they be from Ivy League?
You don't have to be. It's not a necessity.
What university did you go to?
I went to the University of London, Queen Mary's.
Okay.
As did my fellow colleague here.
What would you say? Education in Oxford or Cambridge or an Ivy League education is important for a banking career?
I think that used to be important, but these days they see strength in diversity, especially from other universities, because
it's no longer a cozy club of
I don't think so.
posh boys from Ivy League.
It used to be, but I think that trend has moved away now.
Okay. And to you, sir, tell me, here we are talking about the financial crisis and bankers, and what makes you get up every morning and go do your job, especially after all the bad press that bankers have been getting? Do you think it's fair that they've been getting this bad press?
No, I don't think it's fair. I think the industry's been quite maligned, actually. Of course, there are bad elements to every industry. I wouldn't say that the banking industry is any different from that. No, but what motivates me is the privilege of being among some of the world's smartest people. It's true, it is a hard-working sector, but actually that's the challenge that drives me. It's seeing people, like-minded people who come, they want to overcome these challenges. There's a reward and a satisfaction in doing things that others can't.
What would you say to, I remember reading the newspapers in the aftermath of the financial crisis, and people it was, people didn't pull any punches. All kinds of names, bankers got all kinds of sort of bad names. why do you think it was so bad? And secondly, do you really think that greed and all of that didn't take over the industry, at least for that phase?
I mean, I think that's a very multifaceted answer to that question. I mean, I think the reason it got so strong is because the crisis fundamentally became a global crisis, and it hit everybody. When people are suffering or as hit as are losing homes, they want somebody to blame.
They want somebody to blame, absolutely. Okay. Tell me, I mean, all the bad press that banking got in the aftermath of the financial crisis, do you think it's put off some really bright, talented young people, people who felt that, gosh, I don't want to be categorized as bankers in the city?
Not necessarily. I don't think it has. I mean, if you look at recruitment, we deal with many recruitment firms, they are flush with graduates coming from university,
Oh, really?
still interested in going into banking. What I will say is people are also interested in looking at boutique niche firms these days as well. So, where you have a lot more opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
Because one of the other challenges within banks is they're large firms.
Yeah.
To actually succeed and climb the ladder, in terms of rank, is tough.
Yeah.
So there is a trend towards smaller firms where you have more opportunity to succeed on an easier time, on a smaller time
That's
frame.
very good words of advice, that don't always look at the really big name, big ticket banks. What would you say, sir, is the secret to surviving a financial crisis as a banker? You must have seen, in your more than 2 decades of experience, a lot of these cycles. Of course, this cycle was really something that hadn't been seen before. But what would you say is that one quality to survive a banking crisis as a banker?
I think the biggest quality in that one is discipline, honesty, and ethical behavior, and that's really what these bankers which were involved into the crisis really missed. Because the unfortunate thing is that the whole community gets smashed for that. For something what really 5% or even 5% of that people have really to stand off. And when you ask that question to Usman, in terms of talent, we can say the banking industry lost a lot of good talent because we standing here having our own companies now, in terms of that we say that's not really for us any motivation anymore to stand at a bank, because with a regulator in your neck all the time, when you spend 50% of your time with regulators to find ways to go on with trading, then you find your own challenges.
I think the one takeaway from what you just said was discipline and ethical behavior. I think that sort of somewhere kind of went out of the window, didn't it?
You don't get the trust back otherwise, because a banker is how they ranked in terms of jobs. I don't want to reiterate that, but we have to work on that. That's definitely clear.
The one thing people sometimes forget is bankers do a lot of good work as well. If you look at these banks, they have many programs in local outreach communities.
But all bankers say that bankers do good work as well. No?
That's true. I mean, look, maybe I'm biased.
Yeah.
It's true, but this is I'm speaking from my limited experience.
Sure.
And these institutions do invest in the community.
Sure. Tell me, to get banking back to the glory days, to get apart from obviously the negative PR and all of that, to make it a career that people say that, wow, that's a career I aspire to, and it's a great career. The bankers are great people. What do you think it'll take for bankers like you and like everyone gathered here to do in the next few years?
I mean, there's a lot to do, right? I mean, the whole banking market is going through a complete transformation right now.
Yeah.
I think if you looked at since 2008, everyone's looking at banking. The high focus is in the media. Everybody's looking to basically clean up, if you like, banking.
Yeah. Do you think it is being cleaned up?
I think basically what's happening is a lot more regulatory focus on the banking sector
But
now.
don't bankers usually say, oh gosh, not more regulation?
No, I think it's a good thing, actually. It's a good thing to actually have an orderly market in place.
Okay.
And I think...
So clean up, that's one tip.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's working better.
Well, what about you, sir? What would you say is if you were a doctor writing a prescription for the banking industry, as somebody who works in it yourself, tell me, what would be at the top of your list?
I think a big angle is, we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's moving maybe away from the focus that the draw to banking is to make money.
Yeah.
For sure, that's something that if you're successful, you can still do. But I think actually start to talk about banking for what it offers, I think, above many other sectors, which is the opportunity to solve and work on extremely large, complex problems, challenges that actually affect the economy as well.
Fantastic. That is great. When I say the word banking as a career, what's that one word that comes to your mind?
Regulator.
Hard work.
Hard work.
Exhilarating.
Rewarding.
Now here I am with four really passionate students, and they're all torch bearers, I should say, of India and ambassadors of India here at Imperial College, because this is where all the big decisions are taken about the India society at Imperial College. And you're smiling, but I know that as president of the society, you along with your team, you all do a lot of fun and interesting things. But I want to ask all of you for your own personal reflection about being Indian, about your own identity, because I know that all of you here have a very international kind of exposure and a very international identity, as it were. I'll start off, protocol allows that I should talk to the president first, right? Yes, always, absolutely. So, Sudeep, tell me, you're the president of this society at Imperial College, and you're studying to be a doctor as well. Tell me, what is it that your India society? What does that mean? What do you do? Is it kind of a Bhangra school, or I mean, what is it? Or are you all doing Bollywood all the time, or what do you do?
No, so we're the Imperial College Indian Society, and we represent both international Indians and both home UK Indian students, and studying at Imperial College London. And our aim over the many years that we've been established at Imperial College London is to really celebrate Indian culture and to bring together people under one banner.
What does that mean? Because lots of times I hear people, we want to celebrate Indian culture. Oh, it's so vibrant and so colorful, you know the adjectives. But what is it that you really do?
We do many things. I mean, for example, we do celebrate the Indian events. So, for example, we have the Diwali Ball, in which we celebrate what is arguably one of India's biggest events. But also, we celebrate Indian dance, drama, Indian culture in general through our annual show East Meets West, which has been running for 23 years now.
23 years, huh? A particular show?
Yeah, one show, and it's down to the hard work of the committee over the last 23 years that have really taken East Meets West and evolved it into what it is, the longest running student show in the UK, and for that we are very grateful.
Fantastic. And tell me, with you, you were born in this country, weren't you? And how often do you go back to India?
I go back to India once every year.
Once every year. That's quite quite a lot of my to India.
Yeah, I mean, it only started only 4 or 5 years ago. I think when I was a child, my parents felt that I wouldn't appreciate kind of my roots from an Indian background. But I think when I started to mature, I think I really started to question, where am I from? What are my roots? What actually made my family who they are, really. So those questions started forming, and that's why I started to go back to India.
Okay. And tell me, I mean, this whole experience of going back to India and going back every year, how much of India do you know, and how do you experience it?
I experience India through mainly through the eyes of my parents. I think that when we go back to India, we do the things that they did when they were kind of 18, 19. So we go to just experience definitely food and family, and just very much it's quite a secure environment. I mean, a lot of India is yet to be explored from my point of view. I think
will you do that at some point?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely one of my premier goals in life to kind of discover all of my culture as it is.
Okay, fantastic. And tell me, ma'am, your own, you've lived in many countries, as you tell me off camera, and you've had a very kind of international sort of upbringing. Yeah. Tell me, I mean, what does, wherever you may go, they say that an Indian will always be an Indian. You can't take India out of a girl. So tell me, are you one of those girls?
I didn't used to be, but recently I am. I think it's mostly because of my mum. Like, she's probably instilled a lot more culture and tradition in me than anyone else. She's probably my biggest inspiration in that sense. But like, I travelled quite a bit, so I didn't really have a chance when I was growing up to really experience it. But definitely, like Raj was saying, as you grow older, you start to question it. And yeah, basically, it's pretty much my mum.
And I find that interesting. A lot of kids, when they're growing up, when they're really young, a lot of kids tend to, especially living in the West, tend to sort of, or not just the West, but living in countries outside India, tend to often sort of reject their Indian identity. I mean, to sort of blend in and become, become a part of whatever society they may be living in. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, it's happened to me. Like,
you've gone through that phase.
Yeah, I've gone through that phase. I've definitely gone through it. That teenage phase you go through. Yeah, definitely don't want to be Indian, but you get out of it, you're not as immature anymore. But definitely now, as
Is that phase difficult to deal with? Because, you're kind of confused, you're sort of dealing with, you want to
definitely.
be part of another society, but at the same time, you can't not be Indian all of a sudden. So.
100%, because my parents were quite traditional. So it was always like my friends were allowed to do things like come home late and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I definitely experienced that. And now that I've grown up a little, I kind of see where they're coming from. Like you said, you can't take India out of a person.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And now do you appreciate it a bit more?
Yeah, definitely a lot more. Now I feel stupid for, everyone does. But
Yeah.
yeah.
University societies definitely help that and encourage that. I mean, as I said, when I came to university, I was looking to explore different things, and maybe before university, I wasn't necessarily into Indian culture as much as I am now. I mean, look at it.
Which is very interesting, right? I mean, coming to university where you think that you'd actually go farther away from, your Indian identity, but you actually come closer.
Yeah, because what shows like East Meets West and Just Bollywood help you to do is they help you to embrace it and show you that actually there are a lot of other UK students who are like you in that they do enjoy Indian culture, and it's really set a landmark in UK Asian culture in particular. And
that's a very, very interesting thought, that one. And tell me, you've had a very international upbringing as well. You've grown up in many countries. Did you go through this phase, the teenage phase, where you're like, gosh, oh my God, here I am with Indian parents and talking about India, a country that I barely know, and what the hell am I doing,
That's
pretending to be Indian?
Your point about me barely knowing India is not entirely true, because I've had my fair share. 11 years is a long time, and that meant when I went out of India, I definitely met different people, went to different cultures, and I was like, wait, I don't really know anything about this. And as Sangeeta said, I had that phase where I'm like, maybe there's something, it's time for me to explore something else. But as Sudeep said, when I came to uni, Indian society was something I was kind of rejecting. I'm not gonna lie, I was reluctant to join. But
why?
It's just that image that you have. People are always scared that if you go towards your cultural society, especially Indian society, you will be labeled as the Indian guy, the one who doesn't hang out with anyone else. But I actually came to realize that that's not true at all, because that perception is incorrect. You're basically, by joining Indian society, you're enjoying your culture, you're celebrating your culture. And I think what people should do, what members of Indian society should do, is bring the friends in other cultures, from other cultures to their events, so that we kind of accomplish our aim, which is to cherish Indian culture and to spread it to other communities. And
tell me, I mean, in terms of, this is great, this is fantastic, that, like all of you said, it's kind of almost like a journey, where you begin with sort of feeling a bit, prickly about your own kind of identity in many ways when you're growing up as a teenager, but gradually you begin to feel as if, it's, and I've heard this over and over again, trust me, lots of young people tell me this, that it's kind of, finding and connecting with India in a grown-up sort of way, where you don't feel as if, gosh, why am I being, labeled as the Indian guy in the office or, Indian guy at school. And tell me, in terms of projecting India's image to other students, when big events happen in India or when, India hits the headlines, do you all often get asked questions? I mean, do you, for example, become like the Indian expert in a group of non-Indians, for example?
Yeah, it's very true actually. I remember in my lecture theatre is when a time when the whole Modi thing was going on.
Yes.
Everyone was asking me, "Oh, have you heard what happened? And what's the latest update on the news?" And I was like, "I don't know. It's like, I know as much as you do, really." So I think it's kind of an interesting point you raised about how accessible it is. India. I think that's kind of what we try to do with something like East Meets West, like we're making it accessible. Like for myself, the school I went to, I was 4 Indians out of 100 students in a year.
Wow.
So for me to celebrate Indian culture was something that I wasn't really familiar with.
So how then do you keep in touch with India? I mean, for example, the Modi question or other things, when the rapes happened in India, that hit the headlines and India was being discussed in a certain context. I mean, how do all of you keep in touch? I mean, do you all read or do you all... what's that?
NDTV.
Oh yeah, apart from NDTV.
Well, personally, I like to keep up to date with all the happenings back in my country. My dad's he's an avid reader, and he's like, have you read about this? Have you read about that? I'm like, not yet, Dad, but I'll definitely get to it.
Yeah.
And
not yet, Dad, but of course we'll be discussing this at the Indian Society at university.
Dad, I hope you're watching this. Anyways, that said, as Raj mentioned, there was this incident where people came up to me. They're like, "Have you heard Modi's speech at Madison Square?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "You should listen to it. It's amazing." And they were asking me questions about his background. I'm like, "I don't actually know. I probably know just as much as you do." And at times like this, you feel that India's really moved on from what I left India as, and it's just a very different country now. It's a lot more progressive. It's a lot more accepting. It's a lot more open to other cultures.
Okay, very interesting. Well, what about yourself?
My mum, she calls me up and tells me on the phone what happened. That's practically how I keep in touch with it.
Okay.
Yeah, but obviously I do read the news and stuff. But
I'm Bengali, so food and politics, you know, that's basically what we're known about, right? Well, football on the side. But no, so I mean, food and politics very much ingrained at home.
It's part of your DNA, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel that as soon as I go home, it's like stepping into a different environment, and being Bengali, food is very important to us. I'm not going to lie, but you know, the politics as well. It's something that I am interested in because my grandparents and my auntie, they're involved in politics, and
All Bengalis are involved in politics. You know that.
no, we like to keep in touch, keep tabs, discuss it. But no, I like to keep an eye out on things. I have a good understanding because we're from India, and it's very good to have a good understanding about what is going on back home.
Next time we're looking to talk a bit about politics and have a bit of you know, some rasgullas on the side, you know, where you know whose house to go to, right? Okay.
We'll invite you, Bali Adda. That's what it's about.